Now here's how you write a petition for certiorari, writ of certiorari. And I looked up that word for you, certiorari. Of course, it comes from the Latin word, and it means to make certain. Certiorari. It's very hard to spell. Certior. You write it C-E-R-T-I-O-R, and then you write A-R-I. But it comes from the Latin word meaning to make certain. A term in the Latin form of the writ. A writ from a superior court, that would be the United States Supreme Court, to call up for review the records of an inferior court, that would be the United States District Court, the United States Court of Appeals. And so that's what we're doing, to make it certain that they were right. Well, they were, I know it's certain that they were wrong. So, and this is the how to do it. Here's to file for informa pauperis as a poor person, so you don't have to pay the $300. Questions presented. Table of contents, table of authorities, the cases you're going to quote. I'm going to take quote, and the laws you're going to quote, the two laws I told you I'm going to quote, due process and equal protection of the law, and so you make your plea for them to hear it, and then down here is your opinions from the court below. You have to state that the United States Supreme Court has jurisdiction over this. Well, of course they do, because it's 2 amendments to the Constitution of the United States. And then the constitutional and statutory provisions involved, statement of the case, and that goes on for a few pages, typed double space. This isn't mine, you know, this is their sample. This is about a case where they illegally searched a man. That's what the cause of action is. So, and it can be typewritten. And then you have a conclusion, and I believe that's it. It's pretty much like what you go through with any court. And you have to keep put in a copy of the order that you're appealing. And then, by the way, the mandate has come. The other thing that we're waiting for in Glendora versus Scott Lord is for the United States Court of Appeals, Southern Second Circuit, to decide whether I have to pay the cost of the printing of the brief of the rip-off United States Attorney Mary Jo White of the Southern District and her lawyer Lorraine Novinsky, charging me something like $200 to print their brief when I could have had it printed for $3. And in a form certainly that the United States Court of Appeals accepts. And applicant's petition for rehearing has been considered by the court and is denied. I have one of those. I sent in my reasons for rehearing, and they denied my petition for rehearing. And Amendment 4 to the United States Constitution, what is that? And then in the Supreme Court of the United States, I swear, declare on this date, have served the attached motion for leave to proceed in forma pauperis and petition for a writ of certiorari on each party to the above proceeding. So, oh, you have to send it to each one of them, not just to the lawyers. Oh, so I have to send that to Judge Duberstein, Judge Hall, Judge Cattell, etc. And that's all that has happened on Scott Lord, except I want to remind you that Mr. Picken, James Picken, E. Picken, who is the Commissioner of Consumer Affairs in Nassau County, refuses to come to the phone. He makes himself totally unavailable on the phone. You call there all day long, not all day long, but a half a day, and the line is busy, and then you call in the middle of the afternoon and the line is not busy, but he's out. It was during the Lyndon Johnson Administration and Mrs. Lyndon Johnson, Lady Bird, made a reservation and took some friends out to lunch, and they went to a Howard Johnson restaurant. And after the luncheon was over, the press secretary said to the waitress, "You did a wonderful job. I know you were under pressure. It isn't every day that you get to serve Mrs. Lyndon Johnson." And the waitress said, "Mrs. Lyndon Johnson? I thought it was Mrs. Howard Johnson." The month of April is coming soon with its good weather, and you always will note that the weather in the month of April starts to turn very good just in time for the United States government to take the shirt off your back. And a boy from a very affluent family was asked what he wanted to be when he grew up, and he said, "A garbage collector." And of course the parents were stunned, and they said, "What is your reason?" And he says, "Because they only work on Tuesdays." The UPS man just came, so I took the package for the people across the hall in 1A, because it would be very hard for them. They have to go out to Elmsford to get the package. And then the UPS man has to keep coming back, and here's Katie Cat. Here's the Katie Cat. Thinks the UPS truck makes too much noise. Okay, Katie, why don't you turn around frontwards? See, she wants me to feed her. She wants to put her snoot into my snoot, so I will stop and feed her. And I will feed you, Katie. You going to lie down there? Okay. Couldn't the people just see your pretty face, Katie? Couldn't they just see your pretty face, Katie? This second, Katie. This second. This second. Oh, that light feels so good, doesn't it, Katie, after you've been outdoors? Yes. You got to be fed, huh, Katie? Turn your face around, Katie. This way, Katie. Don't they always do what you ask them to do? Now, what happened on, about the Americans for Legal Reform. Here is the number that you call for if you have complaints about lawyers or judges. You call this number. Americans for Legal Reform, Carl Lancezera and Harvey Cass. And we're having a party. Sunday we're having a big party at the Oak Beach Inn. You're going, Katie? You going to the party Sunday? And Katie just jumped down and Ginny just jumped on Katie as a little play. Katie doesn't exactly like that, I don't think. We're having a party at the Oak Beach Inn Sunday, December 4th from 3 to 6 p.m., $10 per person. And so I'm going to drive out there from Westchester, and I'll take Carol G. with me. She lives in Larchmont. So what is going on with Glendora versus John Curley and Douglas McCorkindale and Gary Watson, Gary Sherlock, Kenneth Paulson, and Gannett Company. As you know, callagy, greedy, grubby callagy, the lawyer, is trying to get me to pay $535 for his costs, and he's the same lawyer who kept me from getting my Cablevision costs. Remember that triangle? Let's see what's going on here. They had they bought Nursing Spectrum. Gannett bought Nursing Spectrum, and this is from the third quarter report. I finally finished it. The operating income from operations for the third quarter of 1994 rose $24 million. That's 15%. And improved broadcast earnings. That means more people are advertising on TV. I don't see that. Newspaper publishing revenues rose $47 million, or 6% in the third quarter of 1994. And now I want to read you this figure. They print it in green. That's a color of money. Let's see. Advertising revenue in thousands of dollars. And so for local advertising for the third quarter, the year to date, we have $574 million. And the total ad revenue is $1,561,000,000. And Gannett is trying to collect from me $535. Newspaper circulation revenues rose $3.2 million, or 2% for the quarter, and $8.1 million, or 1% for the first 9 months, the first 3 quarters. And what is this figure here? Daily paid circulation of USA Today is 2 million. Operating income for the broadcast division rose 8.8 million, or 48% for the quarter. Interest expense declined 3.3 million. Net income rose 16.8 million, or 19%. The company repurchase program, originally authorized in 1988 for 7.5 million shares, approximately 4.5 million shares has been purchased by Gannett. Gannett is buying its own stock. And the total cost of the share repurchase program in 1994 was $400 million. The cash flow from operating activities totaled $512 million, and Gannett and callagy are trying to collect from me $535 costs. They really need it, don't they? A cash flow from operating activities of $512 million. Now, what is this? A business segment information. And this is the operating revenues for the first 9 months of this year is 2 billion, just say 2.7 billion, okay? And they want $535 from me. I call that greedy grubby, don't you? Greedy grubby Gannett, greedy grubby callagy. My petition for rehearing is finally into the court through the vagaries of the United States mail and whatever court personnel got it off track, and we're waiting for a decision from whom? Judges Lavelle, Pratt, and Cabranes. Let's see what else happened. Oh yes, now the reason I don't have to pay this judgment of $535 is that it's on a paper with an index number that is not mine. Now my index number is 1992 01769, and the number on the judgment sent to me and signed by Gordon Burroughs, the usually sloppy court work, is 1994 01769. And if you look on this, I am not a party to this action. That is not I. This action is Carl Anderson, AM Court Reporting, and Ismail Mendes, Taida Mendes, Aida Mendes, and these judgments are for $4,000 and for $9.9 thousand. It's actually $10,000. It's $9,991.19. But that is not my name. So I do not have to pay that judgment. See, here's the, see that index number up there? 9401769. Mine is 9201769. So Franklin's been over to the county clerk about that a few times. We just wait. It can't be collected because it's the wrong index number. Now what else is happening? Oh yes, we have the matter of you call Gary Sherlock's office and Andrea answers, and you tell her that Glendora versus Sherlock and Gannett and Curley and etc. is going to be on TV in Rockland County Tuesday night at 9:30 p.m. and she just hangs up on you. So I called Karen in John Curley's office, the CEO down in Arlington, Virginia. I gave her the message. She received it, and I also pointed out to Andrea in Gary Sherlock's office, refuses to take a message, and I had a witness of this. It was on a speakerphone, and another person heard it, that she won't take a message, and she just hangs up or she says something rude. And Karen says, well, you want me to pass that on to him? And Glendora says, yes, please pass that on also. So that's what happened on Glendora versus Gannett. Broder still works for the Reporter-Dispatch. He still works for Gannett. See, that's more of the Gannett bad management that the courts let Gannett get away with. For instance, antitrust and breach of contract and libel. Just a few laws they've broken. Funny that in the service at the naval base, the chief surgeon's headquarters, one of the sailors put up a sign that said, Wizard of Gauze. The airline passenger was making a reservation to fly from San Diego to Mishawaka, Indiana. And the airline reservation clerk says, how do you spell Mishawaka? And the airline passenger said, well, never mind. South Bend is close enough. You remember back in the days, folks, it used to be IOU, and now what is it today? It's IO everybody. Yes. Folks, that was Robert Perry who just called, and he's been up since 3 o'clock in the morning working on the East Hampton case, sending in the corrected brief. This is the East Hampton Cablevision case. But what I was just showing you there was some of the Lydia Gallicano file. You just won't believe that this happened. This is about the screwiest thing that I've ever heard of. We get a notice in the mail that Lydia Gallicano is bringing a small claims action against us in the White Plains City Court, in the small claims part, saying that we owe $1,800 unpaid rent. Well, that's crazy. You remember that whole story. So we had to go down into the basement and exhume these files. And I've been spending about 20 minutes a day going through the files and finding the documentation. You remember what happened. In August, they came over and ruined our greenery and violated our warranty of habitability and our right to enjoy in peace. So I withheld $200 from their September rent. The rent was $1,050, and I withheld $200. And then the October rent, I made a motion to Judge Nicolai to pay the October rent into court, and Judge Nicolai was so slow and so inept about his court work that the decision on that never came until in November. And at that same time, Lydia Gallicano brought a summary proceeding against me in the White Plains City Court to pay the $200, and the September rent, the $1,050 October rent, and the November rent. Well, the November rent, I had made up my mind that I didn't want to live there anymore, so the November rent would have been paid by the security. So, and Judge Holden took $1,250 away from me and gave it to the County Commissioner of Finance, and then then we had a trial. That was even before the trial, which is unconstitutional. It was a bad thing that Judge Holden did, and that was unconstitutional. And because I hadn't even been heard on the matter, because he took the money away from me November 17th, and the trial wasn't scheduled until January 8th. Well, the trial came, and then Judge Holden's decision came to pay the $1,250 rent, and also gave me some, because Lydia Gallicano cheated and lied and stole from me and made me pay the Con Edison charges, which she should have been paying because it was for heat outside of my apartment. And then Judge Holden awarded $500 to Lydia Gallicano's son-in-law lawyer, And it was a very, very bad piece of work on Judge Holden's part. It was really wretched. And I appealed that before the appellate term. I appealed his decision in order before the appellate term, and I won. And the appellate term said to reverse Judge Holden's decision and told Lydia Gallicano to pay me $1,580. So I got the judgment against Lydia Gallicano, and she wouldn't pay, and I sent the sheriff after her, and she was running away and wouldn't pay. And then finally one day they just realized they had to pay, and I got the check for $1,580. So why is Lydia Gallicano suing me in small claims court for $1,800 unpaid rent? It's a crazy, crazy, crazy thing to do. Flip the lid, Lydia. That's what has happened. We can't figure it out any other way. So the solution, of course, is to go through all these, and I'll get the paper ready, and I will make a counterclaim that she pay me $2,000 for abusing the small claims process. It's the Small Claims Act, Section 1804, I believe, or 3 or 5 or something. I haven't found that one yet, but I will find it. That's ridiculous. That would be the 6th lawsuit between Glendora and Lydia Gallicano. Maybe she's just lonesome to see her name on TV again or something. I called the New York State Court of Appeals, and no decision yet on whether they will give me leave to appeal the bad decisions of the appellate division, on the bad decision of Nikolai, the bad decision of Ruskin, and the bad decision of Donovan. Only after that, we ought to have a little comic relief here, lean back and tell some jokes. Did you hear about one ghost was talking to the other ghost? And the first ghost said, "Frankly, I don't believe in people." And Diane says that she has teeth like stars. They come out at night. And there was a letter saying, "I'm answering your ad in the music magazine for an organist, choir master, lady or gentleman. I have been both for 10 years. What happened on Glendora versus Daniel Walsh, Roberta Walsh, James Walsh, Nella L. Pucci, Theo L. Pucci, Andrew Larkin, Kevin Larkin, Michael Koza, Kevin Odell, Kevin Comboy, McGrath, Leo McGrath, and Judge Wood, and Paul Carlucci as law clerk, and Bruce Bendish on the week of November the 23rd, before Thanksgiving, and over Thanksgiving, and today, December the 1st. This is the deposition of the law-breaking of Andrew Larkin and his son Kevin Larkin. And this is a deposition that was taken on October 25th. And this is the stenographer's minutes. And I had to go through all of these minutes, as you see, and I had to supply the information that was missing. And I had to make additions, and I had to make corrections, and boy, did I have to make a lot of punctuation correction. Punctuation is important, you know, it changes the meaning of everything. There's a page that didn't have any. Let me see if I can find a big page. Oh, look at that. And so I had to do this on the original, and I had to conform the copy. Or I guess I did it on the copy first and conform the original. Then last night, coming up from Manhattan after being out there working on Cablevision all those hours and being away from home, we came up and we got this over to Wilson, and we got it notarized, and we handed it in to Lori Petka. And so that project is done. Okay, and you just get one out of the house, and in the mailbox there was another one. It's the reply affidavit, and it's after the return date. And I need a chance to oppose the reply affidavit. Well, I'm going to oppose it anyhow, and I'll read it to you whether the judge reads it or not. But then the judge hasn't read anything so far anyway, I don't think. Boy, you saw that feature on Inside Edition about those judges working 3 hours a day? Yeah. And so that's taken care of. And on the next program, I'm going to read the wall log to you, the list of their law breaking for this past week. And on the next program, I'm going to read the wall log to you, the list of their law breaking for this past week. The wall log that was found Monday morning after it had been distributed to the other apartments. There were 14 of them distributed to the other apartments. The others went out in the mail, 26 of them altogether. And it was on the Lincoln, and it was pouring cats and dogs. And I have reasons to suspect that Neil Alpucci did this. Left it on the Lincoln. He would be my prime suspect. So now I'll get a copy that hasn't been reduced, and I'll get a copy that hasn't been rained upon, and I will read you what happened on Wednesday of last week through to today. All right. You saw this article in the Westchester Law Journal? Okay. Let me see. PM, thanks to White Plains Public Access, I was done my editing early at TCI, and I was able to walk home. This is the greatest location, I'm telling you folks. It's near to everything. It was bitter cold. It was the first time we've had any non-pleasant weather. Well, very few days of it. As I say, there were 38 beautiful days in October and November. On Thanksgiving, I weighed 160 pounds. I dressed, I fed the cats and the squirrels and the compost. There wasn't any, and did the rubbish. And the rest of it I've told you, except for at 2:04 p.m. Daniel Walsh drove the red truck into the yard under the kitchen window, and he blew the horn 4 times. Now, that's on Thanksgiving Day, with no legitimate purpose. There was no reason for him to blow the horn. It was not to prevent an automobile accident. It was not for any kind of warning. It wasn't for anything. It was just maliciousness and harassment, intention to annoy and alarm with no legitimate purpose. Captain Quinn called, and Glendora said, no, your people in records have taken care of it. The report still hasn't shown up that Officer Glenn said that he would take on Election Day, November the 8th, when James Walsh and a guest were passing a football in the sidewalk in front of 21 Greenwich Avenue, and a young mother went by with a stroller, a baby in a stroller, and holding another very small child, 3 or 4 years old, by the other hand. And she had to go underneath the football as it was whistling over her head. It was that whistling football. And Glendora interviewed the young mother on videotape and said, do you think that the sidewalk is for people like this playing football back and forth, or do you think it's for a pedestrian like you? And she said, I don't think it's safe. And after all, and I called the White Plains Police, and the White Plains Police did nothing. Keystone cops, they did nothing. And after all, the White Plains Police is the Department of Public Safety, part of it. And if the woman says it isn't safe, then the White Plains Police are not doing their job, which is safety. Here's Officer Fisher's report about these same 2 boys, James Walsh and Guest, were playing football on the sidewalk, and one time the football hit the Lincoln. which is safety. Report about these same two boys, James Walsh and Guest, were playing football on the sidewalk, and one time the football hit the Lincoln, and then they ran away. And here's Katie Cat, and Katie Cat has just been a good vegetarian, and she's eaten her vegetarian corned beef slices, they're called, but they're vegetarian. Now, Katie. Yes, Katie. Oh, you're such a pretty girl. Can you come over here so that people can see you? How pretty you be? Hmm? Yes, Katie. Oh, yeah. She loves to have her ears scratched. Okay, let's move on here. It was a bad thing for James Walsh to do. Rather, Daniel Walsh to do on Thanksgiving Day. At 2:06 p.m., James Walsh stomped up the stairs and made undue noise. At 2:07 p.m., James Walsh made undue noise coming down the stairs. And this is, and at 2:40 p.m., Franklin Thanksgiving went over and tidied up the rubbish barrels, and he took our rubbish over, and then he put all the bags that the tenants had left outside the rubbish barrels, and he put them inside. And the station, let's see, no, I told you those jokes. The day after Thanksgiving, Vito was here making noisy lawn machine. Here's a letter I wrote to Mr. Farnham, who's the CEO of General Accident, who is the insurer of Andrew and Kevin Larkin, whose shareholders' money is being spent by Michael Koza and Kevin Comboy and all of those people. Mr. Farnham, your shareholders are being robbed $825 for needless depositions by Koza, Wilson, Bave, White, in White Plains. Remember this thing I told you? This thing alone cost $625, $5 a page. And plus the other 200 of the first deposition, which was August 22nd. Your policy does not cover Andrew Larkin for non-bodily injury, emotional disturbance with no physical effect. Your policy does not cover Andrew Larkin for intentional infliction of same, only for accidents. Yet Koza, Odell, Comboy, Karamitzos, McGrath are spending thousands of your money defending Andrew Larkin. It is a ripoff, and I tell people about it every day on television. I would not want to be a shareholder nor an insured by General Accident when the funds are squandered this insanely. Your company would be far better off settling with Glendora the $7,000 plus statutory interest of 9% since April 12, 1993, and the jokes of the day are, yours in truth, Glendora. The White Plains policeman said the car wasn't blocking the sidewalk, but it was. You see, we can't get in through here to put our car over here. So I tell you, the television camera is just backwards from the mirror. We can't get it to put it in our car. If it's just backwards from the mirror, then you just make believe you're not looking in a mirror. Now, Glendora told a building inspector about rubbish that is disgusting, and he has seen it. And I said the place needs a superintendent, and he said the building inspector says you're right. Daniel Walsh was entering just as Franklin was leaving. Franklin, like a gentleman, waited for Daniel Walsh to enter first. Daniel plowed into the shrubs and cracked the branches. The damage of the cracking noise, Glendora could hear it way over to the front door, which he was entering, and that's number 1033, Tortious Act. Eviction, grounds for eviction, destruction of the landlord's property. He has no control. He is a damage to society, himself, his family, and the landlord. Okie dokie. At 12 noon Saturday, a silver Bronco came in to the driveway and blew the horn for James Walsh, Tortious Act number 1034. James ran across the lawn with a rubbish bag to deposit. The Bronco went north on Greenridge, east on Rutherford to pick up James at the rubbish barrels. Odell does not know the law. He said that answering affidavits must be in within 7 days, and that's absolutely wrong. They have to be in within 5 days. I addressed the envelope Saturday for wall. And pursuant to CPLR 2214B, answering affidavits of any are required to be served upon the undersigned at least 7 days before the return date of this motion is what Odell writes is wrong. Here's the law right down here. And it says answering affidavits shall be served at least 5 days before such time. And now what's this, another law? No, these are the printing requirements. Oh yeah, the printing requirements by the United States Supreme Court, and they say to put your paper on both sides. So I'm sending that to Paul Carlucci, who doesn't conserve the trees and who abuses our environment. We'll make a decision on the basis that you didn't have, you wrote on 2 sides of the paper, where you didn't double space it. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? Isn't that justice? Has nothing to do with the merits of the case. Paul Lucci is the one who denied 3 orders to show cause for protection. And when the other side never showed up, never opposed Glendora's orders to show cause, yeah, Paul Carlucci is the one. We've got another motion, a cross motion before him, and you just can know how that's going to be decided unilaterally in favor of the crooked lawyers. The region answering service is very bad, and the region oil company is very bad. The furnace is making those rattling noises and grinding gear noises, and I called up to tell them, and I don't want to give them my name and my number because they keep calling you, and I'm not the superintendent here, and I don't get anything off my rent. They should be calling John Porzio. And so the region answering service is rude, and I guess the furnace is running okay now. Now, we had a telephone call from Long Island, quote, "I like your show," unquote, East Hampton, Amagansett, and Montauk. November 28th, a whole half hour of chat with Glendora, which was on at 5:30 p.m. Channel 14. White Plains Public Access was all about Walsh, Alpucci, Kozer, Wood, Larkin, and the other lying lawyers. And there was one call, and nobody talked. It was an aggravated harassment call. And let's see, I called Officer Fisher, but he didn't call me back a couple of times, so I called Captain Quinn. Then Officer Fisher called, and I told Officer Fisher that nobody made that report about the woman with the baby stroller and about James Walsh and his guest playing football on the sidewalk, which is not safe. Oh, the moon. Have you seen the moon lately? Oh, well, I see it at 5:30 in the morning. I don't expect you to see it, but it's so pretty. Like this morning, the moon was a little crescent, way down low, close to the horizon, and up above it was the planet Venus. And then yesterday morning, Venus was down here and the moon was up there. Oh, it is so pretty, folks. Nella's Pontiac is noisy. It needs, there's an exhaust leak that makes it very guttural and noisy and vibrates a lot, and she shouldn't be parking under my bedroom window, which is what she's doing. She never can resist. She never can park in her own spot. With Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin law-breaking, and what has to be done, I have to answer that reply affidavit on the motion to see all videotapes, which is a ridiculous request because there must be 200, 300, 400, 500, 600 videotapes and have copies made of them. I don't have money to make the copies of them, and I don't have the time to go through all the index and pick out the Larkin parts. So I just couldn't take the navy blue jacket and the 600-watt light any longer. The judge, did you hear what the judge said to the dentist? The judge said to the dentist, do you promise to pull the tooth, the whole tooth, and nothing but the tooth? And the man walked into the men's store, and he said to the store owner, he says, may I try on that navy blue suit in the window? And the store owner said, no, you will have to use the dressing room. And little Eddie said to his buddy, Freddie, they're not going to grow bananas any longer. And Freddie says, why not? And Eddie says, because they're long enough already. This is the newspaper I've been telling you about, the magazine, Multi-Channel News. It's for cable TV operators. And they had an article in there about Glendora and Cablevision way back in August when it happened. And they're writing another article about Cablevision refusing to pay Glendora's costs. Oh, look at this. See, they're trying to sell this to cable TV operators, the American Revolution. Look at a big newspaper. Now, we have to tell you what happened this week on Glendora versus Elizabeth Hubbard, Alan Beck, Michelle Mayapath, and the Fund for Medieval Courts. You knew that Purvis sent in an opposition to Glendora's motion to the appellate division to stay all proceedings in the Judge Colabella court. The bad Judge Colabella court with the bad clerks, T.J. Mallon, Stephen Kellner, and Raymond Powers. Now, I got up and wrote this, I stayed up all night and wrote this. No, I got up at midnight, Monday, and I wrote my opposition to their opposition to my motion to vacate the proceedings in the appellate, in the Judge Colabella court until the determination of the appeal. And I'm going to read that to you. Purvis, affirmation in opposition to a motion to stay proceeding. And it's just really 3 pages, and it's all froth, which I will point out to you as I read you my opposition to his opposition. And the rest of it is just silly exhibits that have already been submitted before. But a lawyer, you know, has to make it ponderous. Bulk, what is it? Bulk and no weight. Yeah, that's what it is. Bulk and no weight. Okay. Supreme Court of the State of New York, Appellate Division, 2nd Department, Appellate Division number 9409045, Glendora Plaintiff Appellant against Elizabeth Hubbard, Alan Beck, Michelle Mayapath, and the Fund for Modern Courts, defendants, respondents. This is the affidavit of Glendora opposing Purvis opposition to motion to stay all proceedings in the lower court, pending determination of appeal. Glendora, being duly sworn, deposes and says her reasons follow for opposing defendants' opposition to staying all proceedings in the lower court pending determination of her appeal. 1, defendants have no defense and never will have. 2, Purvis cites no cases. He should consult an attorney. 3, Purvis does just the opposite from, quote, setting this motion in proper perspective, unquote. What he tells the court is deception, distortion, and cover-up. The gravamen of this case is the following. Would Glendora and her husband Franklin have spent all of those 60 or more hours monitoring and writing reports? Now you monitors for modern courts, now you listen to this. And spent all of that money of their own for parking, gasoline, and car wear if the defendants had said in the beginning there would be no report after the monitoring period was over? You can't trust the Fund for Modern Courts. Okay, you just can't trust them. So beware. They may do the same thing to you that they did to Franklin and Glendora. Here, Glendora and Franklin were trying to help society by improving the courts. They generously gave their time and life doing what Hubbard, Beck, Mayapath, and the Fund for Modern Courts asked, and it was all wasted due to the negligence of Hubbard, Beck, Mayapath, and the Fund for Modern Courts, which I will call the Fund for Medieval Courts. It is a bitter disappointment to Glendora to see modern courts on the side of lying, covering up, delaying, on the side of fugitives. Point 4, Glendora in 1992 started saying that the Fund for Modern Courts should be monitored. This has turned out to be altogether too true. Defendants are fugitives from discovery. They did not appear for discovery twice. They never appeared at any of the 3 scheduled conferences, but, quote, spite and malice, unquote, cover up for them. That would be Raymond Powers, T.J. Mallon, Stephen Kellner, and Judge Colabella. This deception, distortion, and cover-up by Purvis is perjury, and he should be penalized. Purvis made a motion for summary judgment on grounds to get rid of discovery. That was his reason for making a motion for discovery. He dealt with the court clerk, Raymond Powers, behind Glendora's back and behind Judge Colabella's back. Judge Colabella did not know what was going on. Purvis never made a motion for summary judgment from November 19, 1993, 1 year ago, to June 1994, 7 months, or until Glendora pressed for discovery and defendants were petrified of being examined under oath and having to tell the truth. Then Judge Colabella, ensnared by his law clerk's deception, went back on his word. Judge Colabella went back on his word twice in writing and orally. Glendora blew the whistle. Hi, Katie Cat. You want to go out into this beautiful weather? All right, I heard you. Glendora blew the whistle on Judge Colabella to Governor Cuomo, Judge Trafficante, Malonis, Kay, Ingracia et al. This is when sophomoric law clerk Raymond Powers ruled in spite and malice and did everything he could in that decision to ruin Glendora. Glendora read his record on TV in Manhattan, Westchester, Rockland, Nassau, and Suffolk counties. Turn around, honey. No, the other way. That's it. Face the people. That's good. Very good. Oh, that's lovely. Now you're going to turn over in your back? Yeah. No, you're not going to. Okay. With volunteer quote-unquote facade, Purvis and Powers try to cover up the fact that Hubbard, Beck, Mayapath, and the Fund for Modern Courts gave Glendora and Franklin their word they would write a report after the monitoring period was over. They gave us their word, and they went back on their word. Watch out, current monitors for Fund for Modern Court. And you people who are not monitors, don't ever monitor for modern courts. Would Glendora and Franklin have spent all those 60 or more hours monitoring and writing reports and spent all that money on their own for parking, gasoline, and car wear if the defendants had said in the beginning there would be no report after the monitoring period was over? Defendants lied, cheated, and stole our time and money and acted in bad faith. They are liable and they must be punished. This is why Glendora is confident she will win in the appellate division. In opposition to Purvis paragraph 3, his page 1, Glendora states that she doubts Judge Colabella ever read any of Glendora's papers. She believes Glendora's papers were shunted by Judge Colabella's savage court clerks, T.J. Mallon, Stephen Kellner, and malicious and spiteful law clerk Raymond Powers. Glendora resigned from Fund for Modern Courts because monitoring took too much time and money. In the back of her mind at the time was the repetitious negligence of Elizabeth Hubbard, Michelle Mayapath, and Alan Beck in not getting their work done, not reading the reports Glendora and Franklin worked so hard on, and not returning telephone calls, and, most of all, not accomplishing court reform so desperately needed, and not covering courts that should be monitored. The Fund for Modern Courts certainly remained passive. They never did their work. They never fulfilled their mission. Glendora's case was called, quote, frivolous, unquote, only because Raymond Powers was caught doing wrong. Because Glendora exposed him, because Glendora was not covered by his was not cowed by his arrogance, and because he wanted his spite and malice in his grotesque decision and order that will live in the Second Department archives and on TV forever. By his arrogance, and because he wanted his spite and malice in his grotesque decision and order that will live in the Second Department archives and on TV forever. Said decision and order, along with Purvis' greedy, grubby $4,500 bill, are an embarrassment to the Supreme Court State of New York, once the Empire State. Once the Empire State. Powers Colabella never dealt with Glendora's case on its merits, only on spite and malice, never on justice. It is a sham. Judge Colabella is very slow getting his work done. Glendora has not yet heard from him as to another date to appear before the trial assignment part, room 800, Westchester County Courthouse Tower. The November 30th, 1994 date is not possible for good cause show. And that was the date, as you know, that I had the oral argument before the United States Court of Appeals in Foley Square, Manhattan, Second Circuit. Then Purvis tried some more ex parte behind the back, manipulating, and see below. I'm not going to read you that. You remember all that. That's when Purvis tried to, behind the court's back, to get me to agree on a date to go for a hearing. And I would have had nothing to do with it, and I told the judge that, and then I wanted the judge to set another date for us to appear before the trial assignment part, room 800. Purvis paragraph 8, his page 2 is self-serving. What else can one expect? Glendora is a frequent litigator in this court because people like Edwin Purvis, Elizabeth Hubbard, Alan Beck, and Michelle Mayapath are frequent lawbreakers and tortfeasors. About Purvis' meritless remark, quote, did not bother to consult with an attorney as to whether she had any claim, unquote. Glendora states, A, it is impossible to find an honest, capable attorney. The world is being forced to go pro se. 2, Glendora knew she had a claim against these atrocious lawbreakers. 3, she still does. 4, our law clerk bursting with spite and malice cannot change that. 5, she would have realized she had no such claim, quote, unquote, Purvis said, is wrong and is nascent, as Purvis has been all along. Purvis lies, there is no cause of action. You want to know his law firm? It's on that paper I showed you. Clifford, Gelban, Purvis, and Costabile, 1890 Palmer Avenue, Larchmont, New York, 10538. Purvis lies, there is no cause of action. The cause of action is listed in concrete in Glendora's complaint of November 18, 1993, 1 year ago. 1 year of public disgrace and manipulation of the state Supreme Court. Glendora, and this is the court that modern courts are supposed to monitor. Now, how do you figure that? Somebody unreliable, conniving, cheating, monitoring somebody who's unreliable, conniving, and cheating. Glendora was cheated out of a trial, out of due process, out of her day in court. There was no evidence, no discovery, and no witnesses. There was only bungling, a court going back on its word, a court manipulated, a court drowning in miscarriage of its raison d'etre, a court steeped in vicious spite and malice, and a court that threw justice to the four winds. Purvis paragraph 11, page 3 is infantile. Glendora is more confident than ever after reading Purvis's puerile paper that she will win an appeal. If there is justice in the appellate division, 2nd Department, Glendora will win an appeal. The atrocity of Raymond Power's decision order is blatant. The time to show facts to support Glendora's claim comes when Glendora files said facts in her appellant's brief, due income tax day, 1995. The affidavit of Elizabeth Hubbard does not set forth the facts of this case. Rather, it is a fraud, just as her promise to publish a report at the end of the monitoring period was a fraud. Glendora encloses as her Exhibit A the when, where, and why. Hubbard's points are lies. And this is Exhibit A. Plaintiff Glendora's notice of cross motion. And in here, I really tear that. Defendants did not win because they were good or right or honest or clean or honorable or truthful. They won because the court was seething with spite, malice, bad faith, manipulation, denial of due process, and immaturity, just as Glendora told Governor Cuomo, Judge Trafficante, Chief Judge Kay, Judge Malonis, Judge Ingracia, and a TV audience. Purvis lies that, quote, there is no question of fact, unquote. Hubbard, Beck, and Mayapath gave Glendora their word. There was a contract, there was an offer, there was an acceptance. Lying, thieving, cheating defendants breached the contract. What is frivolous is defendants' paper and the Colabella Powers decision order. That's what's frivolous. Their public record speaks for itself and will speak forever. Try as they may, they will never be able to cover it up, but they will try. About Purvis, about Purvis, paragraph 15, his page 3. He is wrong about an order to show cause. Glendora was just told by Judge Burrell's law clerk that her order to show cause there was not signed because it should have been a notice of motion in motion. Purvis' point here is insipid. And what does Purvis know about the law anyhow? He still doesn't know courts of equity were abolished by the CPLR. He still doesn't know that in a personal injury he should submit a bill of particulars, not interrogatories. He is still saying dumb things like, quote, I'll report you, unquote. To whom, Purvis? He is still trying to cheat and deal behind the plaintiff's back and the court's back. This is not the time to submit Glendora's arguments and record of the evils committed by Hubbard, Beck, Mayapath, and Purvis. But Purvis' childish paper of November 23, 1994 forces the hand. Glendora submits her cross motion, her refutation of Hubbard's affidavit that Purvis sent you, her refutation of Hubbard's exhibits that Purvis sent you, her reply affidavit. Purvis never answered Glendora's cross motion, and Glendora's protests all over New York courtland. Purvis and the defendants already have these. Meaning, of course, I don't have to send them copies. Purvis notarizes his own affidavit of service. This is narcissism. Quote, consultant attorney, unquote. Purvis writes in Glendora's address. Process server does not. This is more perjury. Purvis receives Glendora's notice of motion in motion November 15, 1994. He doesn't get out an answer until November 23, 1994, and this is not received by Glendora until late on November 28, 1994, only 3 days before the return date of December 2, 1994. This is unnecessary stress and strain and emotional disturbance upon Glendora. November 29th, Glendora has to edit her TV program and videotape it, which is being done right now. And so far, it's taken 5 hours to videotape it. November 30th, so she has an oral argument before 3 judges of the United States Court of Appeals, the Second Circuit. December 1st, Thursday, she has to videotape her program and video edit it all day long. What time is left for Glendora to answer Purvis' late served paper? None. So Glendora got up at midnight, November 28th, Monday, Tuesday, to answer it, and it is now 4:42 a.m. Glendora presents her cause of action. Purvis did a bad job copying it for you. This is just a reminder of what this case is all about, since Purvis covers up the gravamen. And that's my complaint, where they were negligent on something like 23 counts. Yep, 23 counts, they were negligent. That's the complaint. This case has gone on for a full year, and plaintiff appellant has seen no justice whatsoever. Nothing new in Westchester County Supreme Court. Remember, Hubbard, Beck, Mayapath, and the Fund for Modern Courts are on record as trying to reform you. The Fund for Modern Courts as your enemies. Hubbard, the Fund for Modern Courts, is trying. state. The Constitution says that a person has a right to defend himself. There is nothing in Purvis affirmation that gives good cause to deny plaintiff's motion to stay the proceedings in the Judge Colabella court while the appellate division is determining the appeal. This affirmation is as vapid as all of the Purvis papers. Wherefore, Glendora's affidavit, pages 1 through 18, does state the reasons why the appellate division, second department, shall stay all proceedings in the lower court. Stay all proceedings in the lower court, pending determination of her appeal of Judge Colabella's outrageously unjust decision, together with such other and further relief as the court may deem just and proper. White Plains, New York, November 30th, 1994, and is notarized by Elizabeth Corley. And it goes to Purvis, and it goes to Beck and Meapeth and Hubbard and the Fund for Medieval Courts. And it went out last night. It may even make the appellate division by Friday the 2nd, because it went out 2-day priority mail. This exhibit went along with it. Plaintiff Glendora's notice of cross motion. This big exhibit went along with it, which was my protest all over the state of New York about this terrible decision. And also in here is my reply affidavit. Purvis never answered my cross motion. And here are some jokes. Fred says, "You see that man across the street?" "Yes. I owe more to him than to anybody." "Well, who is he?" "My landlord." John said that he took up painting portraits for a living. And Charlie says, "Well, have you sold anything yet?" And John says, "Yes, my car, my TV set, and my watch." Sorry about that. That's feedback from the TV monitor. That telephone call, it was quite interesting, folks. It was Joyce Bigelow, who is the lawyer for Michael Gelman, producer of Live with Kathy and Regis. And she wanted to know if I would be interested in settling the case and getting rid of it. And her terms were $120. Well, after 6 years, I think I should have a little more than that. So I mentioned the statutory interest of 9%. And she said, "From what date?" And I would say 6 months, approximately, or 4 or 5 months from the time that the contract was made, which would be 1990 March, when it became evident to me that Michael Gelman had lost the tape, and that there was no sending back the tape, that he just had to pay the damages. And she contested that it ever was a contract, and that, oh, she even lied and said I never had a conversation with Michael Gelman. And that really made me angry. No, nothing can make you angry than lawyers' lies. And so I right away said there was a conversation, I have a witness to it, and I also have it on audio tape. Well, so she began to negotiate the 9% interest, and the costs and disbursements didn't come up again. And I told her that I was down at the White Plains Court yesterday afternoon for 3 hours about. And the argument, the trial is supposed to be Monday night, December 5th. So she kept pressuring me to settle, and I kept saying, I reserve, just the way judges say it. I said it. So, of course, what kind of a release she would want, what kind of a discontinuance. From the beginning of all time, you know, one of those? No. So, and on my mind, of course, is getting this program videotaped and getting it edited this afternoon, because you can't make up editing time. If it's gone, it's gone. So we left it that she's going to be out tomorrow morning, but she thinks she will be in tomorrow afternoon. So by then I will have an inspiration. You tell me what you think I should do. So the joke that I didn't get to tell you was about the man was asked, why are you're always so well behaved? How did that happen? And the man says, well, when I was a little boy and I was well behaved, my father would pat me on the head and give me a penny. And by the time I was 17 years old, I had $17 and a flat head. Close now. And we'll close with a hymn. We'll get out the old hymnal and we'll sing this one. We've never sung this one together before. Oh, Jesus, I have promised, page 218. This is an index of famous first lines. Oh, Jesus, I have promised to serve thee to the end. Be thou forever near me, my master and my friend. I shall not fear the battle if thou art at my side, nor wander from the pathway if thou wilt be my guide. Bendish on the week of November the 23rd, before Thanksgiving and over Thanksgiving, and today, December the 1st. This is the deposition of the law-breaking of in the town of Babylon, or the city of Babylon in Nassau County, and all these old forts are around here. Look at this one. This is a 1931. Isn't that a pretty thing? Isn't that adorable? This is an automobile. Yeah, okay.
You want to get that?
Yeah. That's a 29? They had a station wagon in 29?
Yes, the first production station wagon, that's it.
That's it, is it really?
Yep.
Now, I want you to see my 1980 Lincoln, folks. It turns 200,000 miles today, and the date is December the 4th, 1994, Sunday, and it's 1:26 p.m. I think that's terrific. How long did it take you to restore your beautiful car?
Oh, about 3 years.
Yeah, I bet, yeah. What else have we got around? What is that red one?
I don't know, but that's kind of a hot rod. He's not with us.
Oh, he's not with you?
No.
Oh, yeah. How many people came out here?
We had 13 cars.
13 cars?
Yep.
What was the oldest one?
28.
Oh, and what was the most recent one?
31.
Oh, 31?
We're a group of Model A's.
You're all Model A's.
30
It's this,
to
okay,
31.
what was the Model T? What was that?
That was 09 to 27.
That was 09 to 27 was the Model T.
Yes.
And that was the first Henry Ford car.
Well, no, actually he had a few before that.
He did?
But that was the big one.
And what do you do, come out to the Oak Beach Inn and then you have a little party, or?
Well, we had lunch and we're going to tour on back. Yeah.
Now how far is this car going?
Well, we're from Brookhaven Hamlet.
And how far is that?
Well, it's about 30 miles east.
30 miles east?
Yes.
Yeah.
On South Shore.
Okay. Do you know how many miles this car has on it?
Yeah, this car has about 85,000.
85,000?
Yeah.
Oh, gee, that's interesting. What's your name?
Ron Moore.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Moore. Thanks for the information. Who's your companion?
This is my friend Emo Pocorni.
How does it ride, Eno?
Great, just great.
Great ride, huh?
Right, I have one too, almost just like it.
What's yours?
Same
29,
thing, 1930.
31.
It's just a year older, but
Mine's
same.
a year older, 1930.
Oh, yeah.
Same collar.
Oh, this is a 29?
This is 31.
Yeah, 31, right. Okay, that's right. You go backwards. Okay.
And that's a 29.
That's a 29, the station wagon. Take care. Okay, we're going to close out now. First of all, let me show you the ocean. So you say we're at the Oak Beach Inn in Long Island, Suffolk County. It was beautiful coming out here. It's 63 miles from White Plains. I'm amazed. Whew.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. The light's not thing in here. Today's December 4th, 1994, Sunday. And the time is about 3 to 6 p.m.
I like your photograph.
My lawyer denied me. This is I spoke to one lawyer, and he says I have to write the motion myself.
You can't see anything, but Mr. Matheson, who is the owner?
This is great.
Yeah, in the light I need to see a thing, you know, but that's the reward. That's the reward.
Right.
A lot of us talk about doing things, and very few people really put their neck on the line and rock the boat. And Bob has been one of the few people that has done this for ourselves and helped all of us launch us to really new plateaus, made us famous throughout the country. So Bob, we want to thank you, and we have this little plaque that we've made for you.
Bob Matheson, will you read it to us, please?
Presented to Bob Matheson, the OBI, as a token of our gratitude and appreciation. Americans for Legal Reform.
Thank you, Bob.
Here's your camera, Carl.
This man is a man of very few words. He's a man of action. We didn't have that many conversations with him. He put his checkbook on the line, and he helped all of us because we know there's millions of people like ourselves across the country, and we're sending a message that we're mad as hell, and we're not going to take it anymore. And this guy helped us.
I would say there's 150 people here, folks. I'm sorry you can't see. There, everybody. Welcome to A Chat with Glendora and what happened on the week of December 1st to December 7th, 1994, Wednesday. This is Pearl Harbor Day. Remember the people who gave their lives for us, for you. Remember those people. On Pearl Harbor Day, December the 7th, 1941, Franklin Roosevelt said a day that would live in infamy. And now I want to tell you what happened on Glendora versus Scott Lord, Conrad Duberstein, Robert John Hall, 2 judges, and also Judge Cattell, and Judge Winter, and Judge Jacobs, and Judge Cabranes. What goes on there every single day is that I have to read the rules of the United States Supreme Court. I read 5 pages of rules, and I called them up this week, and I asked 5 questions, and they answered the questions. James did that. He did a good job. And then every day I look at their forms. They give you a form how to file a writ of certiorari. Certiorari is a Latin word, and it means to make certain. And so I'm going to the United States Supreme Court because I think it's certain that these 3 judges, Winter, Jacobs, and Cabranes, were wrong, that Judge Cattell was wrong, that Judge Duberstein was wrong, and Judge Hall was wrong. And what is my case? The 14th Amendment, equal protection of the law. The judges got equal protection of the law, but you and I don't. And so I have to get that in, because the mandate came in well, I don't know when the mandate comes in. They go from the day of the decision. The decision was September the 28th, 1 day, no deliberation after the oral argument of September 27th. So there was no deliberation there. It was a foregone conclusion that they were, foregone collusion that they were going to stick with the judges, the buddy judges, and deny due process and throw justice to the wind. First joke of the week is Bob says to Peter, "You remind me of Dan Smith." And Peter says, "I'm not a thing like Dan Smith." And Bob says, "Yes, you are. You both owe me $10. And Peter was saying that he was bragging that he was an exporter. And his mother-in-law says, yes, he's an exporter, all right. He used to work for Amtrak. And the ship steward was trying to console the passengers who had good reason to worry. And he says, I know that you know we're surrounded by water, but you must be encouraged by the fact that they were only 2 miles from land, straight down. Now, that's about all on Scott Lord. Thursday, it took 3/4 an hour to videotape Scott Lord. And then Friday, it was 14.5 hours answering some more law breaking by Kevin Odell about the videotapes and the audio tapes. And Sunday, it was 18.5 hours to answer a stupid protest by Callagy and Strickland about Cablevision not dropping Thomas Garger from the action. There is just, I'll read you that later. I'll give you all the reasons why that was stupid, ill-advised, and really malicious. And then Sunday I went out to Long Island to a party by Americans for Legal Reform, and they're terrific. They picket. They go to the Nassau County Courthouse and they picket the Supreme Court at the back door and at the front door, and they picket the Suffolk County Courthouse, and they're really pushing for legal reform, for getting rid of bad lawyers and bad judges. You do that, of course, there's going to be nobody left because they're all bad, so far as my experience has been. Let's see. And that's where I saw the Model A cars and showed you pictures of that. Let's see, you know, on Monday, I made up for all of the Scott Lord days I missed reading the rules of the Supreme Court. And I have to get that in, as I say, December 28th. It has to be postmarked to go to the U.S. Supreme Court. It's going to be a petition for a writ of certiorari. And certiorari is a Latin word that means to make certain. To make certain that Cabranes, Winter, and Abrams made the right decision. I am certain they did not. It was a self-serving decision. It was against due process. And as I say, my fight's going to be for equal protection of the law, 14th Amendment. 69 of Scott Lord. I would never been out, and everything's a spin-off out there in Nassau County of the Scott Lord lying, stealing, and cheating. Did I read you the names of the defendants? Judge Conrad Duberstein, Judge John Robert Hall, Andrew Maloney, former United States Attorney, Eastern District, Harold D. Jones, former United States Trustee, Neil Mann, former United States Assistant Trustee, Teresa Kavanaugh, Joseph Derby, who is a Pinkerton employee and is in the security there at the Westbury Bankruptcy Court on Bravado Road, and Scott Lord, who started all this, the liar, thief, and cheat, and Jan Stahl and Jeffrey Barnes, the two people he committed fraudulent conveyances with on the bankruptcy that Scott Lord brought, hoping to get rid of creditors, but it ended up, in his words, backfiring, and he had to pay $14,500, and Jan Stahl and Jeffrey Barnes had to pay $5,000. And then there's one more. That would be Richard O'Connell. And that's what happened on this week, December 1st to December 7th, 1994. For some more jokes, a little old lady was down at Pennsylvania Station, and it was announced that this train goes to Buffalo in 10 minutes. And the little old lady says, that's wonderful. Last time it took 8 hours. And the scout leader had his troop out, and he says, the next thing we're going to do, they're out in the woods, he said, the next thing we're going to do is to climb that steep cliff. And the little scout, he got so scared, and he says, do people often fall off that cliff? And the leader says, no, once is usually enough. And what was on the hypochondriac's tombstone? What was the epithet? I told you I was sick. Versus Gannett Company, Mitch Broder, John. division for Gannett, and Gary Sherlock, who's the person at blame for all the things that go wrong in Westchester and Rockland, and Kenneth Paulson, who is the executive editor. The only thing that is going on there is that we're waiting for the United States Court of Appeals Second Circuit. That would be Judges Lavelle and Pratt and Cabranes to grant my petition for rehearing. They did a terrible job. And also waiting for them to rule on callagy's greedy, grubby costs, making me pay $41 for his printing of the brief. And when he had an appendix, and he never should have done that without making a motion and having it granted for an appendix, and also charging they did the copying in their own law office down in Plush Park Avenue, 230 Park Avenue. They did the own copy, and he's charging 15 cents a page for a copying when I can get it done better for 2 cents a page. I say if, sadly, excuse me, Stevens, Burke, and Burke want to be in the copying business, okay, go into the copying business, but they're in the lawyer business, the lawyer lying business. You know, if they want to go into copying business, go into copying business, but that's ridiculous. And what is it in the final analysis? What I told you, it's greedy and grubby. Nothing's going on there except waiting for those two decisions on costs and on the petition for rehearing. And the time on Gannett Broder this week was 2 hours. The time in Scott Lord was 2 hours. And also in Scott Lord, we're waiting for the court's decision on Novinsky's costs, and she was even greedier and grubbier. And here she is, an attorney for our United States attorney. A United States attorney is supposed to prevent crime, not cause it. And so they're waiting. That's Mary Jo White and Lorraine Novinsky, and they have asked the court to make Glendora pay, what was it, $220 for a printing of their brief, which Glendora could have had done for $3. Isn't it awful when a United States attorney has to cheat? Newspapers in the classified was an ad that said, large vase for sale by lady, slightly cracked. And a bachelor went into a furniture store and he wanted to buy a mattress, and the clerk asked him, you want a spring mattress? And the bachelor says, no, I want one I can sleep on all year round. And another ad in the newspaper was umbrella for sale by lady with 2 broken ribs. And what happened with Glendora versus the New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal? Well, we have a new governor. Maybe we'll get a decent Division of Housing and Community Renewal. But that's the William Street Division of Housing and Community Renewal, and also versus Judge Coppola. Nothing. We're waiting for the oral argument before the Appellate Division, Supreme Court of New York State, Second Department, in Brooklyn, approximately a year from now, 1995, Christmas. They are a year and a half behind, the Appellate Division. Now, some jokes. A student asked a professor, is it difficult to become a professor? And the professor said, no, you do it by degrees. And a boy studying ancient history asked his father, Dad, what is a Grecian urn? And his father said, about $5 an hour. And the longest word in the English language, you know what it is? Smiles. There's an S at the beginning and an S at the end, and there's a mile in the middle. And this is what happened on Glendora versus Lydia Gallicano on the week of December 1st to December 7th today. And this says, City Court of the City of White Plains, County of Westchester, Lydia Gallicano, plaintiff against Glendora. Defendant, small claims 4809 of 94. And this is an application to deny claimant use of the small claims part. To prosecute claim on grounds this claim has already been adjudicated. Application is made pursuant to Uniform City Court Act, Section 1810. Affidavit. Glendora, being duly sworn, deposes and says her reasons follow for her application to deny claimant use of the small claims part to prosecute claim on grounds that this claim has already been adjudicated. This application is made pursuant to Uniform City Court Act, Section 1810. Point 1. Section 1810 of the Uniform City Court Act states the following. Limitation on right to resort to small claims procedures. If the clerk shall find that the procedures of the small claims part are sought to be utilized by a claimant for purposes of oppression or harassment, as where a claimant has previously resorted to such procedures on the same claim and has been unsuccessful after the hearing thereon, the clerk may in his discretion compel the claimant to make application to the court for leave to prosecute the claim in the small claims part. The court, upon such application, may inquire into the circumstances, and if it shall find that the claim has already been adjudicated, or that the claim is sought to be brought on solely for purposes of oppression or harassment, and not under color of right, it may make an order denying the claimant the use of the small claims part to prosecute the claim. Point 2. Lydia Gallicano sued Glendora in White Plains City Court on this same matter, and the petition follows. You remember all of this. You lived through all of this. And here's page 2 of the petition. So the very action that Lydia Gallicano is bringing before the Small Claims Court of the City of White Plains, now, October the 29th, 1994, today being December 7th, 1994, has already been adjudicated because she brought this same claim to the City Court of White Plains, the day court. On November 13th, 1992, Judge Holden ordered Glendora to pay $1,250 into the court as a condition of Glendora's getting a trial. He did this orderly. Glendora asked 3 times for Judge Holden to put this order in writing. He refused. Later, Glendora found out why he refused. It was an unconstitutional thing to do. Nobody has to pay money into the court as a condition of a trial. Glendora gets a trial whether she pays $1,250 into the court or not. And point 4, Glendora paid the $1,250 into the court. And here is the check, and there's the receipt from the court. And there's the receipt from the court. Point 5. Here is Judge Holden's order to deposit the $1,250. But I need something in writing. Why I have to pay $1,250 into the court. So I attach that as an exhibit at the end. Point 6, there was a trial January 8th, 1993, and here is the decision and order dated February the 9th, 1993 from that trial. This is Judge Holden's very, very bad decision, where he awarded a son-in-law lawyer $500 attorney's fee. Nothing but prejudice. Point 7. Page 10 is the judgment from that decision and order. There's the judgment and decision, and it's for $1,580 that Glendora pay Lydia Gallicano. Following is Glendora's appeal of Judge Holden's decision. There's the $25 I paid the city court to appeal the decision. And here is the notice of appeal. Point 9. The appellant's brief by Glendora is enclosed. That's this great big thing. This is my appellant's brief to the appellate term of the Supreme Court of the state of New York. Let me take out this little note so you can see it. This is the appellant's brief. Just a second. Defendant Lydia Gallicano was supplied 2 copies on November 9th, 1993. Point 10, Judge Holden's order of release for Glendora's $1,250 follows. Judge Holden wrote an order to release the $1,250 right in the middle of the appeal. Obvious prejudice. And then Glendora went to Judge Holden right in court, and she pleaded with him to vacate his own order of release of that money. And Judge Holden just played games. I have no power to make a motion returnable to the appellate term. That wasn't what it's all about at all. That's nothing but a cover-up. That's Judge Holden's handwriting. And he did this from the bench. And so Glendora got out an order to show cause to stay the order of release pending determination of the appeal. That's the order to show cause. Blank. But Judge Ingracia was not there to sign it, and when Judge Ingracia isn't there to sign it, there is no other judge, no duty judge, who can sign it. It has to be Judge Ingracia. And so I was shafted. But when Judge Ingracia returned, he signed Glendora's order to show cause, and here is his signature. But Judge Ingracia signed this order way too late. Gallicano had already got the $1,250 with interest. Point 14, the motion for stay to release the money was granted on February the 8th, 1994, but Gallicano already had the money. This is Judge Ingracia. Do you see the bottom line? Ordered that the motion for stay pending determination of the appeal is granted. It's nice to get that, but it was way too late because Lydia Gallicano had the money. Point 15, here is the decision of the appellate term on Glendora's appeal. Appeal by tenant pro se from a judgment of the City Court, City of White Plains, Westchester County, John Holden, judge, entered March the 22nd, 1993, in favor of the landlord in the sum of $1,550. Judgment is reversed with $30 costs, and judgment directed to be entered dismissing the petition. In this non-payment proceeding, landlord neither alleged nor proved that a demand for rent was made as required by Real Property Actions and Proceedings Law 711-2. Under the circumstances, the petition must be dismissed. See Tolman versus Heading, all concur. So Lydia Gallicano lost that. It is hereby ordered and adjudged that the judgment is reversed. Judge Holden's decision is reversed with $30 cost, and judgment directed to be entered dismissing the petition, and all concur. All right. So Glendora goes after her $1,250, which never should have been released by the Commissioner of Finance and Judge Holden. So Glendora goes after it and demands restitution. What does Lydia Gallicano do about that? She refuses to pay. Glendora has to go to the clerk of the City Court of White Plains and get a judgment against Lydia Gallicano and a lien on her property at 40 Longview Avenue in White Plains. She also owns 42 Longview Avenue right next to it in White Plains, in the Highlands. And here is the judgment against Lydia Gallicano for $1,580, including a lien against her property. So, next step is to go to the sheriff and get an execution and send the sheriff after her to make her pay it, since she wouldn't pay it on Glendora's demand for restitution. And Lydia Gallicano refuses to pay the sheriff. So Glendora pays the sheriff to go to collect the rent from the tenants presently dwelling at 40 Longview Avenue. And then finally, Lydia Gallicano paid $1,580. And Glendora lets Lydia get by with paying no interest from November 1993, .24. The sheriff lets Lydia get by without paying any fees, .25, and this amounts to approximately $300 that Lydia was allowed not to pay. .26, Glendora signs a satisfaction and has it served and entered with the county clerk. .27, so this matter has been adjudicated. .28, this claim of October the 29th, 1994 must be dismissed with prejudice on the grounds of res judicata and collateral estoppel. Counterclaim. Defendant Glendora demands $2,000 damages from claimant Lydia Gallicano for A, violation of Section 1810 of the Uniform City Court Act with claimant's abuse of the small claims process. B, the harassment by claimant for willful intent to annoy and alarm with no legitimate purpose. C, inconvenience, time, labor, quantum merit, detrimental reliance caused defendant for this frivolous action. D, intentional infliction of emotional disturbance with no physical effect. .30. Lydia Gallicano has abused the small claims process before. Please regard the summons with complaint filed by her on June the 5th, 1992, because the day before Glendora complained to the White Plains Building Department about Lydia Gallicano's gross violations of the Building and Fire Code of White Plains of the state of New York. Further, Lydia Gallicano has no claim to this alleged piece of marble, which is what this claim was about way back on June the 5th of 1992. Let me start again. Further, Lydia Gallicano has no claim to this alleged piece of marble thrown out because her sister owned it, and Glendora has Lydia's husband saying so on audio tape. The filing of this claim, June the 5th, 1993, was retaliation and frivolous. Judge Freer dismissed the complaint. And that wasn't until April 1993. .31, Glendora paid the rent of $1,050 every month, December 1992 through August 1993 as per the lease. There is no rent owing. There is no unpaid rent, as this complaint frivolously and insanely claims. Dated White Plains, New York, December the 9th, 1994. Glendora, Box 416, White Plains, New York, 914-949-9495. Subscribed and sworn to before me, etc. And Glendora adds that there is something really strange about this summons and complaint. It was dated October the 29th, 1994, and mailed to Glendora on November the 22nd, 1994. In other words, it was filed practically a month before it was served. The whole thing is insane. The whole thing shows mental imbalance. Here are some exhibits. Here's a rent check for $1,050 for August 1992. And here is the writing on the petition by Judge Holden from the bench in November of 1992. Next step on this is to take it, it has to have a master made and take it to the clerk and let the clerk go through it and see if the clerk will take it to the court and to the judge and have it dismissed and see if Glendora gets her $2,000 counterclaim. The boss said to his employee, "I saw you arguing with a customer. In my business, you never argue with a customer. The customer is always right." Now, what were you arguing about? And the employee said, "He said you were an idiot." And the teacher said, "Toadstools grow in damp places." And the little girl says, "Yes, that's why they are shaped like umbrellas." And the teacher said, "What is an octopus?" And the little boy said, "An octopus is an 8-sided cat." And this is what happened on the week of December 1st to December 2nd on the law breaking of Daniel, Roberta, and James Walsh, of Nella and Theo Alpucci, and of Kevin and Andrew Larkin, of Bave Karamitzos, and Koza, and Odell, and Conboy, and McGrath, and of Bendish, and of what happened in the Judge Wood court. Thursday, it took an hour to videotape all of this law breaking by these people, and it took an hour to edit it. And last night, Wednesday, we handed in the corrections and additions of the deposition of the Larkin law breaking of the deposition of October the 25th. And what was in the mail Wednesday night? Another screwy Koza paper to answer about the tapes, all tapes, and 2 hours to edit wall and videotape. On Friday, December the 2nd, there was no time to do wall. There was a big paper to get out to the appellate division, and it has to go today, and it took 14.5 hours. And what was left of the day after that? Well, there was no time to pick up the police reports. Nella has stopped parking where she should not. The drawer in the kitchen cabinet by the sink is all in pieces where Kevin Larkin came through the window, turned on the faucets, and flooded the kitchen and the basement underneath the same. That vandalism. And Caesar will come and fix it tomorrow afternoon, Saturday at 3 p.m. And there's no time for jokes. There's no rubbish around on Saturday except for 2 pieces in the driveway to the south at 6:58 a.m. I opened up the Odell stupid reply affirmation demanding all tapes, and then I cut it down to size and paginated it and started answering it. And I finished at 11:30 a.m. writing it. At 11:53 a.m. I started typing it. Franklin typed 10 pages before he left. And I typed 11 to 20, and I took a break. It takes me 50 minutes to type those pages, 10 of them. And I went back to the typing. The weather was nice outside. And come back in and type some more, pages 31 to the end. And Jim Cahagan called from Rockland County. He's somebody that we helped out when he was fired. And he has 2 nice jobs now. And let's see. Caesar came at 3 p.m. and I helped him. I held the pieces of the drawer as he put screws in them and put brake brackets in them. And in doing so, I got too close to his drill and I got 2 bad injuries on the back of my hand. But this was one of the worst vandalisms we have. Again, that was made by Kevin Larkin, coming through the window, turning on the kitchen faucets and letting them run and flooding the kitchen and the basement below. And the drawer, of course, today it's queer. You know, they make, the drawer is really made out of paper. That's really what it is. They call it composition wood, but it's really paper. And people are strange. First of all, they make paper out of wood, and then they make wood out of paper. Does this have anything to do with Judge Wood? I resumed the typing, and I got up to the end, and it was 7.5 hours. And the noisy girls from 3C were playing ball and ruining the lawn. And then James Walsh has a new pair of rollerblade skates. And there were several offenses by James Walsh with those skates going underneath our south bedroom window. And it ended up that the time on answering the stupid request for all videotapes by Kevin Odell, that the time ended up on it was 14 and a half hours. I'm not going to read that to you just since I finished the log. At 6:07 p.m., James Walsh deliberately making noise on the rollerblade skate. 6:08, the same. There's plenty of other places to rollerblade skate. He just rollerblade skates underneath my south window as a harassment, intention to annoy and alarm with no legitimate purpose. 2, as an infliction of emotional disturbance with no physical effect. And 3, as a malicious campaign to annoy. And so there were quite a few of those. And the Lincoln turned 200,000 miles at 15 years old. And it happened on the border of Nassau County and Queens, just coming off of the Northern State Parkway. Glendora bought a tank full of the most expensive gasoline she could find. It was a thrill to watch it go from 999.99 to 000.0. The time in Wall this week was 13 hours. The money in Wall this week was $4. And the number of tortious acts is 1,044. What do we need? We need trial readiness certification. We need a notice of issue and a demand for jury, and get this case out of Judge Wood's dilatory court and where it belongs, which is the calendar clerk. And we're up to page 2150 on the wall, law-breaking, Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin. Now we go to this week's log against Daniel Walsh, Roberta Walsh, James Walsh, Nella Alpucci, Theo Alpucci, Andrew Larkin, and Kevin Larkin. And it took 1.5 hours to close the log and start up the new log. And Franklin served Odell, and that took an hour. And let's see, it was $8 for the printing, it was $5 for the postage to get out the wall log. And the furnace needs help. It makes bad noises, it strains and it grinds. And I told the answering service, and the answering service is no good. And I told Regent, and they're no good as always. And the place needs a superintendent to take care of rubbish every day. There are puddles in the cellar floor again. The drain system has to be done all over. And I want to get those 3 complaints to the building department. And I thank Caesar for fixing the bathroom cabinet. And so yesterday was Monday. No. Yesterday was Tuesday. And I dreaded going to the dentist. A big chunk of silver had fallen out, and it had to be replaced. But I go to the painless dentist, the best dentist anywhere, and there's Joseph Delgadio in the Harwood building in Scarsdale. And he drilled for about 10 minutes. It was a heavy shot of Novocaine. It was a good shot because you couldn't touch that tooth with sugar or with hot water or cold. And so he really gave a good shot of Novocaine because he got it done. And the Novocaine stayed in 4 hours. This was from 2:45 to 7:45, actually 5 hours. But there was no time to stop and heal. You have to keep trudging. And I went to Rick's and gave him a note as to what happened this morning about the parking lights causing the battery to go down. And then I went to Office Max and had the wall log printed. And had this opposition to Kevin Odell's dumb request for all videotapes. Angels rush in, fools rush in where angels fear to tread, and we had to reduce all these pages and paste them up and have them copied. And they were sent out to 13 people, and then the other 14 were distributed to the apartments this morning. And here it is. Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of Westchester, Glendora plaintiff against Daniel Walsh, Roberta Walsh, James Walsh, Nella L. Pucci, Theo L. Pucci, Andrew Larkin, and Kevin Larkin, defendants, Honorable Harold L. Wood, index number 20482 of 1993, affidavit of plaintiff Glendora to the lies of Kevin Odell in his November 28, 1994 reply affirmation. Point 1, hooray for Odell. He got the judge's name right this time. Give him a raise. Point 2, Glendora challenges that Kevin Odell is fully familiar with the facts and circumstances of this matter. If Odell were fully familiar with the facts and circumstances of this matter, he would know something about the electronic media and not go around demanding a ridiculous and ludicrous, quote, all videotapes and audio tapes, unquote. Point 4, as Glendora said, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. Point 5, Odell's message will be in the public record forever and on TV for record forever. Point 6, all right then, Odell, come up with the thousands of dollars to pay for the dubs to be made, to pay Glendora for her time, and to pay for the $50,000 bond in case of damage to or loss of the tapes. Point 7, and Glendora will use all her tapes at the trial, and the trial will last for a year. Mr. Farnham, CEO of General Accident, please note. Point 8, Odell lies again. In the plaintiff's opposition paper, said plaintiff clearly fails to put forth any documentation revealing that Glendora ever responded to our January 5, 1994 combined demand. This is how he makes his living, Odell, lying. Glendora said clearly that she answered all of these costs, mucho dinero, and defendants will have to pay for the dubs made, and plaintiff will not allow the originals out of her sight. Defendants will also have to pay for plaintiff's time to have dubs made. What can be clearer than that? And this paper is in Odell's file. This is why Odell is not familiar with the facts and circumstances of this matter. Glendora did answer, and here's a copy of the answer. Right here, folks. This little part right here. It says right here, when they demand all photographs and videotapes, well, all of these cost mucho dinero, and defendants will have to pay for the defendants will have to pay for the dubs made. Plaintiff will not allow the originals out of her sight. Defendants will also have to pay for plaintiff's time to have the dubs made. This answer is in the court's file, but Odell would rather lie than tell the truth any day. It is a conditioned reflex with lawyers. Notice when you consult the file that this demand to produce says nothing about audio tapes. So by gross laches, Odell has no right to audio tapes at all because more than a year has gone by since the summons with notice and complaint was served on Veterans Day 1993. They had their chances many times to complete discovery, and Judge Wood should have put his foot down. Kevin Odell, again, is careful to omit the CPLR required declaration under penalty of perjury because he knows he is going to lie. Odell writes, within this demand, a request was made under item 4A for any and all videotapes under the control of the plaintiff. Clearly, the plaintiff, in the voluminous correspondence forwarded to this office and to the court, has made reference of the videotapes allegedly depicting the claimed torts by the Larkins against said plaintiff. Glendora writes, she has already shown he has lied. About the voluminous, Glendora says, A. Koza leaned heavily on Glendora's voluminous files at the deposition October 25, 1994. At the August 28, 1994 deposition, Koza failed to have his act together and acted like an amateur. So this voluminous quote-unquote record is of great benefit to all, the defendants and the court. It shows the record of the law-breaking of Harrison police officer Andrew Larkin and his son Kevin Larkin. Keeping this record cost Glendora hours and hours of time and dollars of income from her business. Odell should be respectful of this instead of disrespectful. And Odell is not familiar with the voluminous record. Point 13, Odell writes another nescience and lie. In her opposition papers, Glendora has submitted no proof that the cost of duplicating these video audio tapes is unreasonable and or unbearable to her. Glendora, in her opposition paper, stated that her estimate of dubbing service is $200 per hour, that she has hundreds of videotapes, most of them 2 hours, and hundreds of audio tapes, most of them an hour, that this adds up to hundreds of hours of screening. That's page 3 of Glendora's cross motion of November 22, 1994. Glendora wrote, who has the time and who has the money to pay for that time and pick out the Larkin lawbreaking? Who has the money to pay a video and audio production house the money to make dubs of the same? Glendora does not. Does Larkin? Does Odell? Does General Accident? If Odell wants proof, come to Glendora's place and get a whiff of the tapes and see the stacks of tapes. The file box is full of tapes, and pay Glendora $200 per hour for her time and labor to show him. Glendora does not concede to producing all videotapes and audio tapes. Being forced by a prejudiced judge is not conceding. But we all know by now Odell has a low level of comprehension of the English language. Glendora and Franklin really do not know what this means, do you? Odell writes, what does this mean, folks? It is quite ironic that Glendora claims she does not have the time to pick out the alleged tapes of the alleged Larkin torts, yet she continues to reference same in each court proceeding and in the numerous newsletters she has forwarded to this office and to the court, amongst others. Do you understand what that means? I don't. This is as bad as Odell's lapse of October 31st, 1994, saying he lost a motion to preclude videotaping and audio taping of the deposition from no such motion was ever made or ever existed. Glendora rebuts that this is more Odell mental confusion or just plain lying. Yes, Glendora has the tapes. She never said she did not, but having them is a whole lot different from dubbing them and finding a production house to do it and paying Glendora for her time and labor and posting a $50,000 bond against loss of damage. Paul Carlucci, please note there is a grammatical error here. There should be a semicolon between quote, acts and unquote, and however, quote, unquote. This is a run-on sentence, and in my high school, classical, Springfield, Massachusetts, where Judge Evans Brewster also went, one got an E automatically, no matter how good the rest of the paper was, for writing a run-on sentence. Point 16. The Larkin torts are not alleged. The Larkin torts are a matter of record on paper and on TV. All week long, the Larkin law breaking has been on TV. It has been on TV half hours at a time. It was on Monday, Channel 14, White Plains, Larkin, Wood, Koza, Carlucci. It was on Tuesday, Channel 8, TCI at 9 p.m., 21 towns in Westchester, like White Plains, Greenberg, Mamaroneck, Scarsdale, Bronxville, Eastchester et al. It was on Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Channel 8, TCI at 9 p.m., 21 towns in Westchester, like White Plains, Greenberg, Mamaroneck, Scarsdale, Bronxville, Eastchester et al. It was on Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. in Rockland in northern Jersey. It was on Wednesday in Harrison and Port Chester for a half hour, 8:30 p.m., Channel 45. Harrison is where police officer Larkin lives and works. It was on 9:30 p.m. Wednesday in Yorktown, Somers, Putnam Valley, Bedford, Mount Kisco, and Armonk. It was on Thursday at 8:30 a.m. in Manhattan, Friday in the Cross River area, Saturday on Ossining TV as far south as Tarrytown. Now, knowing all this for over a year, since November 11th, 1993, why hasn't Odell, Koza, Comboy, Karamitzos, McGrath, Babe got off their gluteus maximus and videotaped this footage that they want so badly, they claim? This lie is bared. Glendora has notified of the time, day, channel, and cable system. must be dismissed for failure to put forth a prima facie case. Well, does Odell know what prima facie means? Literally in Latin, it means on the face. The written logs, voluminous, and the videotapes and audio tapes, all on TV, made this a prima facie case from the beginning. Now, really, the correct way to pronounce that in Latin is prima facie. And I don't know, I think judges and lawyers say prima facie. And if it were not so prima facie, how come Bendish and the Odell gang didn't try their threatened motion for summary judgment in a court that always has ruled unilaterally in favor of them and against the injured, suffering, damaged plaintiff? Glendora would like to see Babe, Koza, Conboy, Odell, McGrath, Wood, Carlucci, Bendish stand 1/20th of what she has endured and not go off the deep end. First, Glendora is a victim of over 1,000 tortious acts, that is, injuries by immature, unqualified parents and their corrupted children. She goes to Judge Wood for justice. Then she is the victim of a prejudiced, inept court. Then she is a victim of lying, thieving, cheating lawyers in a gang. Let us see any of you stand up under 1/20th of this. Glendora says it is so obvious that the stupid ploy the Odell gang is trying to perpetrate preclude the trial, the tapes from the trial. You see, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to force me to hand in all of the tapes, or dubs thereof, at a cost that I can't afford and I don't think anybody can afford. And if I refuse, then they're trying to keep me from using those tapes as evidence at the trial. Well, this just isn't going to work. This is cover up the law breaking of the irresponsible, immature, and demonic and dehumanized Larkin, work against society, right and due process, justice, and the good of mankind. They have sold their souls like Dr. Faust to Satan long ago. Instead of being upright human beings and admitting it, facing it, resolved